The Uncackables.
Hello everyone and welcome to the first Uncackables for the year 2020. It is just on 9:10 Melbourne time. We are 10 minutes later than scheduled, but we've all raced to get here. As always, myself, Tim Williams, Editor-in-Chief of The Unshackled, are here, and I'm also joined in the studio by a report from Tiger Mountain host, director of the Melbourne Underground Film Festival, and constant Coke drinker on air, Richard Wollstonecroft. How are you?
Good, mate. Happy 2020, and it seems like we're having some kind of globalist fire sale down under. Everything must go, apparently. So we've got to, put out these fires. It's a major disaster.
Now, Joel Jamel, he had to pull out at the last minute. He had an important meeting that he needed to attend, but we've got stepping in at the last minute for his first Uncackables appearance. We've got Reg Penny, who runs the page New South Wales Patriots Against the Extreme Left, and has also started Channel Reg on Telegram. Reg, welcome.
It's pronounced Reg.
Sorry?
It's pronounced Reg.
Reg. Reg, all right.
What do you pronounce as Reg?
Reg?
It's Reg. He's an Aussie, mate. How's it going, Reg?
Not so bad. Yourself, mate?
Yeah, very good, very good. What's going on? How are things in your neck of the woods?
Oh, not so bad, just recovered a hangover, family all, just.
I can relate.
Just taking it easy, mate.
Now we are, as always, live on Entropy. That's the YouTube enhanced software. I've just put the link in the chat. But for some reason, because I've got the Entropy screen in front of me, it says video unavailable. Watch this video on YouTube. So have both streams, both the Entropy window and the YouTube window out, so you can interact in both ways. You can ask us a question, I can set a poll, and you can also put through super chats if you're so inclined. So way inclined.
So inclined.
Bit of a tongue twister. All right, obviously most of the bushfires now have been downgraded to advice level, which means that people are not in danger. That there has another warning has just been put out. I got a notification.
Yes.
So I know that if something catastrophic could happen, I get a news alert from it. And you can't help but think that the news is not telling us this for our own safety, but to say this is really bad because of climate change. So Kangaroo Island, there looks like there could be a second bushfire there.
I mean, how the hell did a fire get started on Kangaroo Island? I mean, people have really got to examine the issue of arson in relation to all this, don't you think, Reg?
Oh, it's all started by arsonists. It's all started by a bunch of arsonists. I mean,
well, a lot of it are.
Say it's change. It's all like climate change is nothing but a damn scam. I mean, it has to be a person that started it, or some accidental or idiot just throwing a ciggy butt out and all that, and it's all started by a freaking idiot that starts a bushfire like that. Like that guy who started the bushfires and just laughed it off and has no simple remorse.
Yeah, there's been a few arsonists of Middle Eastern appearance with Islamic sounding names. One of them was photographed outside of court laughing.
Well, of course, obviously when these fires first hit, I think it was a real issue and obviously, I think, even if you go to left-wing media, The Age says something like 87% of these fires are caused by arsonists. Surely that appears to be the cause. Obviously, some may have started naturally, or some may have started by some idiot throwing a butt out the window that landed in the grass. That is possible, and it's bound to have happened. But, the majority of these fires appear to be deliberately lit, and it's the amount of them. If you look at the map of fires all around Australia that goes right from Perth all the way up the north coast of Queensland, it's extraordinary. I don't know, how many fires are there? There's at least 100, am I right? Does anyone know how many there are?
Well,
there's a lot of them, mate.
There's a lot of
them. Yeah. Go on, Tim.
Yeah. Well, it's to get a better picture. It's not worth focusing on what individual bushfires are burning, but rather the overall damage. So this is from Wikipedia. They're just stating simple facts here that we've had in total so far 10.7 million hectares of Australia burnt. There's been 28 human fatalities.
Yes.
And there's been nearly 6,000 buildings destroyed, and there's been over half a billion animals that have been killed. They've called. I've noticed a few mainstream media have referred to it as basically, because of the amount of animals killed, as
Animal holocaust.
Yes.
It is an animal holocaust, and I mean, the very fact that, one of the reasons these fires have been so out of control is the greenies themselves have stopped backburning, and also getting into like nature reserves. And, I think, it's unbelievable that they could be one of the causes of, possibly the greatest animal holocaust in Australia's history.
Exactly. It's always been the greenies. Because when they say, "Oh, ban this and ban that," "Oh, ban the burning, don't burn the baby, like animals and all that," well, who's to blame? Them. The Greens are to blame because their policies are dangerous and deadly.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that, Reg. What do you think?
Well, you've seen in the news all of those videos of those thirsty koalas, and
yes,
I know that
sad.
there's, well, you'd call them actual animal welfare activists been driving around collecting burnt, mainly koalas, to get them for treatment. It's funny that most people don't care about or remember how cute the koalas are until there's a bushfire. I remember in the 2009 Victorian Black Saturday bushfires, one of the iconic images was Sam, the koala. One of the firefighters was giving him a drink. Later in 2009, Sam had to be euthanized. But we love our native animals here.
We do, all patriots and nationalists. We love animals here. What do you think, Reg?
Yeah, I love animals, all right. I mean, I like koalas, all right. I cuddle a koala and all that, all right. I have had a kangaroo and all that, even though I had a bit of a boxing match with a kangaroo when I was a kid and all, but
sure.
No, I love all Australian animals, always. All right? Even though kangaroo meat tastes really nice and all that,
Well, exactly. And, there's been far too much barbecue in recent weeks.
Well, the difference between animals that are killed for food or game, as they're called, they're killed humanely. I mean, being burnt alive, that is the most horrific way, human or animal, to die.
No, and that's also been the case for nearly 30 Australians as well, who've obviously been caught in these fires. There was this video online. It was like somebody who had they were near a fire, and they were trying to show how quickly the fires were advancing. And then the fire advanced towards the person filming this thing. And you can see this person literally running for their life. You know what I mean? From this fire, as I think the roof of the fire took off into the ceiling of the kind of forest.
Where was this?
Oh, I don't know. It was online. It was on Facebook.
Well, that could have been a fake image, because
no. It was
I
real.
just want to share. There's been a lot of fake or old images circulating online that purport to be from the current bushfire season that have been revealed to be fakes, because don't let the truth get in the way of your narrative. So this is from news.com.au. Fake and misleading images of Australia's bushfire crisis are being circulated. So that's this is what being
this
used. Map issued by ABC in the US provides a misleading image of Australia's bushfire crisis. So that basically is meant to signify that it would be like most of the US being on fire, the equivalent.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. We go down here. Yes, this image here, a Brisbane photographer whose 3D visualization of the fires went viral had to explain the picture was not a photo and actually showed fire hotspots over a month from December 5th until January 5th. Go down here, and this is another map shows fires covering most of Western Australia, when in fact most of the worst hit areas are on the east coast of the country. And this one here of the children in the water when fire's hitting, that was actually from a bushfire in Tasmania in 2013. This one here, the girl this is Malcolm Roberts' Twitter account. I'll just click onto it here. Yeah, so this one here, this is Photoshop, the girl with a gas
koala,
mask and a koala.
I know this is Photoshop. I know because it's fake.
Yeah, and this one here is from Macedonia. That's not from Australia.
Well, obviously obviously there is a major disaster happening down under, but obviously it's being propagandized around the globe as a kind of proof of global warming. I mean, which is again one of the reasons I'm suspicious of the event, because a lot of people. For example, at the recent election, there were two clear choices. There was Labor, which was very much the global warming narrative, and then there was Liberals who were kind of more dubious of it, even though they still pay lip service to it and are still probably going to hand over at least, I don't know what amount of money, but they're still going to hand over some money to the United Nations or whatever. But there was a clear choice, I think, and the Australians chose the Liberal Party, and they did not like this narrative. And I think one of the reasons we're seeing all these fires is we're being punished for it. You know what I mean? I think the globalist elite weren't happy, and they're using their various assets, whether it be the Muslim community, whether it be the actual green movement itself. There are assets from the globalists within the green movement, and in a way this really does feed their agenda. So I think if you were to point the finger out of anybody, they would be the most suspicious.
Well, that's just a theory.
It is obviously a theory. It's speculation.
That's what you've spoken about in part one of your special report on the Australian bushfires. But as we've already said, there are more basic explanations for why these fires are raging this season, and that is because of poor national park management. New South Wales seems to be the worst for locking up national parks, and all of the laws against farmers and anyone living in rural areas taking care of trying to fireproof their own property, because you can fireproof your property. There was one survivor they interviewed on the Daily Mail. His was the only house still standing in a bushfire area.
Yeah. How did he do it? I mean, what's the key to fireproofing your house?
Well, just research how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's just when you look up bushfires and all that, you just need to learn how to do it. You need to learn your area.
Yes.
You prepare for it, and that's all you have to do. You need to order everything. You need to have a fire extinguisher and nearly everything that can, nearly everything you can fight fires with and all that.
What area? What area are you from, Reg? Are you from New South Wales?
I'm from Sydney, Sydney. But I used to live on the Central Coast. We did have a bushfire back in 2013 at Lake Memora, and it was just across the road, near where I used to live. And devastating and all that.
I think New South Wales is the worst hit state. Am I right?
Yes. My friend of mine is over at Blue Mountains at the moment. She's fighting fires at the moment, and it's really smoky around here and there. When I wake up in the morning, it's a bit cloudy and all that, and sometimes it's a bit foggy. And instead of it's not fog, it is smoke.
Yes.
When I go up the train, when I hop on the train to Central Coast and back and all that, it's all smoke and all that.
And the city of Sydney itself is covered in smoke and haze at the moment?
Not really. It's starting to clear a bit. It's a bit smoky, and then it's just going on. And
it peaked in mid-December, didn't it? Sydney was full of haze, and that's when they were raging at ScoMo for being in Hawaii at the time. He's been well and truly back for the past 2.5 weeks. Though certainly his public appearances and some of his media announcements and promotions haven't been received very well, and that's obviously fueled the people spamming Twitter online with hashtags such as ScoMo resign, ask the Queen or the Governor General to sack ScoMo.
What did you think of the whole reaction about the treatment of ScoMo? I mean, obviously, I think going into the fires, I don't think anyone knew they were going to be this bad. I mean, unless they were deliberately lit and,
He was aware about what's going on and all. I mean, Lizzie, I don't like ScoMo at all, but I prefer him over Bill Shorten.
Me too.
Because I don't want Australia to become a republic or that. Well, ScoMo, he should never ever left the country.
I agree.
I mean, he should have done the same thing what Tony Abbott did. And Tony Abbott right now is fighting bushfires and all that. And I'm glad of what Tony Abbott's doing. And ScoMo should do the same thing, just help fight fires and all that instead of buggering off to Hawaii and all that.
Very good point, Reg. And there's been talk that Tony Abbott should be made like the fire czar. Like in America, when there's a problem, they put someone who normally worked for government or who's specially in charge.
Well, he's been a firefighter for about volunteer firefighter, I should say, for 15 years, and he's fighting these fires voluntarily.
Yes.
Let's remember he lost his seat of Warringah at the federal election, and Tony Abbott throughout his whole life has been the action man. And so obviously when you're a politician and then Prime Minister, there's a lot of action to keep you occupied. And Tony Abbott, for the first time in many years, is unemployed. Obviously, people have pointed out he's got his parliamentary pension, but it's allowed him to dedicate the past since September, so the past 4 months to fighting the bushfires. And it was just reported that last weekend he entered a burning house in an effort to try and put out further bushfires.
I think he's a great hero. What do you think, Reg?
Well, bloody oath he is. He's a bloody hero. He's really good standing up for life and all. And one of these people out there just chanted out Tony, Tony, Tony every time because everyone loves Tony Abbott. I mean, he's a better Prime Minister than Turnbull and that ScoMo as well. I mean, people voted in for Tony Abbott. We didn't ask for Turnbull, that Labor plant, or for puppet ScoMo. I mean, Tony Abbott is the best leader that Australia deserved and needed the most because Tony Abbott did something right, and the reason why people kicked him out because the elites didn't like him at all.
Exactly. Very well said, Reg. And I think that's very true. He was the people's choice, and that obviously he was sabotaged by the globalist puppet Malcolm Turnbull. And then what do we get in replacement? Kind of like somewhere between Tony Abbott and Turnbull, which is ScoMo. I mean, ScoMo is completely bad, but he's not really that wonderful either. So he's kind of a bit mediocre, I think. So we miss him.
Tony Abbott was removed by the Liberal Party room in September 2015 because of bad poll numbers, as Malcolm Turnbull said.
Yes.
We've lost 30 news polls in a row. It's clear the public has made up their mind. But let's not remember that ScoMo was behind in every news poll right up till election day, which is the only poll that matters.
Exactly.
The final news poll, I think, had Labor on 51.5, coalition 48.5, and the result was the reverse. So Tony Abbott could have won the 2016 federal election based on how the polls predicted the last election.
Very good point, Tim. And I think that once again, a great Australian Prime Minister has been shafted, there. And I think Tony Abbott definitely would have won that election, probably resoundingly. What do you think, Reg?
It's also pointed out he was a Rhodes Scholar, of course, which allows you to study. It's Oxford, isn't it?
Well, I think Rhodes Scholar means it's sport and it's...
Yeah, but it's Oxford University.
Is it? I'm not sure about that, but if it is... If you say it is, I say
it's one of those.
Rhodes Scholar. I think you can get a Rhodes Scholarship from different kinds of universities, but not just Oxford. But let's have you look it up.
Oh, you can get in England as well.
Yeah,
I think, because he's born in England, not
Oxford. Yes,
Oxford.
Yes, he was born in England, yes. But Julia Gillard, she was born in Wales. We don't have that. You have to be a natural born citizen. You just have to have sole Australian citizenship. That was obviously made clear in the Section 44 fiasco or crisis, whatever you want to call it.
It's not like American presidents and like Obama, who was born in Kenya, or was it Indonesia?
Yeah. A lot of people are saying that they can't access entropy at all, so they've started asking questions in the chat. There's one from Senator Slayer said, "Did you guys see 7 News? Peter Gray started a fire in Elwood. He spilled some liquid out of his bladder on his electric blanket."
Comedians on the new right, isn't it? Very nice.
Oh my god, Jennifer Slayer. Oh god.
Yeah, so if you can't access Entropy tonight, it is working for me. Just post your question in the live chat and convince enough of the other people in the chat to harass me to
ask away.
Yeah, to answer it, or all of us to answer it.
Yeah, I can't even look at the live feed because I was Skyped in and all that. So yeah.
Fair enough.
So,
what is next? Are we heading into a bad period? So the fires are downplayed a little bit at the moment. So we do appear to be winning the struggle. Is that right?
Yeah, we have a few rains here and there. I mean, we had a few sprinkles and all that out here. Now there was starting to rain down at Penrith, which I saw in the Sydney Trains story and all that. And yeah, I think there's going to be a few rains on the way here soon. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a big win and all that. So yeah.
Excellent.
We might just go back to the arson
crisis
question, that we're facing, because I wrote an article about this on the Unshackled, so I'll just go over to it now. Australia's bushfires stem from an arson problem. So go down here, and so this is the stats that New South Wales Police confirmed they've charged 183 people for bushfire-related offences since November 8. 24 of those were for deliberately lighting bushfires, that's arson. Other charges were 53 for failing to comply with a total fire ban, so really stupid people, and 47 for discarding a lighted cigarette shell match on land. They're very stupid as well. Queensland Police concluded that 103 of the fires in that state, 98 were deliberately lit, 67 by juveniles. And also, this was back in the Fairfax newspapers in November. Dr. Paul Reid, coordinator of the National Centre for Research in Bushfire and Arson, he said about 85% are related to human activity, 13% confirmed arson, and 37% suspected arson.
So it could be 60%.
Yeah, the remainder are usually due to reckless fire lighting or even just children playing with fire, and mentions the school holidays are a prime time for firebugs. The kids have got time to go out there and light. And obviously what are the cause of, what makes a person commit arson? There's a clinical psychology term for it. It's called
nuts.
Pyromania.
It's called being insane.
A sexual fetish called pyrophilia, which is a person gets an arousal from lighting fires.
Well, the left will be asking for equal rights for who? Pyrophilias next. If we don't, we better not tell them about that.
Fire files, you would say that the damage that they inflict on society is on par with pedophiles, with all of the deaths and properties and communities destroyed.
Well, I think it's ridiculous if someone has some sexual fetish to do with fire. It's absolutely insane.
But it talks about what are the causes of this pyromania. It can start in childhood from either neglect or abuse, or attempts by children to light things.
We're not interested in their fucking pathology.
But it's basically like that type of pyromania. It can stem from, it's another consequence of the breakdown of the family unit.
Yes, sure. And I mean, I just think, one of the things I'd like to investigate is, are there connections between some of these arsonists? You know what I mean? Are there political connections? Are some of these people being bribed to start these fires? I mean, I'd just like this investigated. I mean, I don't know what the results will bring back, but I mean, there's been calls for a royal commission from the left into all this, but I think we should look into, since so many of these fires appear to be caused by arson, let's investigate this problem. Maybe we have a huge arson problem rather than a climate change problem.
I call it an arsehole problem.
Yes, exactly.
Reg's on hold.
Reg's on hold.
He'll be back in a moment. We might. We've got a few more questions here.
Sure.
Anxious Aussie. No, this is BB Anti-Bullying asks, where's Dave? Dave is late. He's going to arrive here next Thursday, in time for next Thursday's show. So that's when Dave will be here again next. And Senator Slayer is asking Richard who killed Epstein.
Well, that's a very good question. I guess we should comment on Ricky Gervais at the. You back, Reg?
Come back. Sorry.
Very good.
So painful.
Very good. Did we all see Ricky Gervais at the Golden Globes? That was a fucking classic.
Yep.
I thought, absolute classic.
Yeah, he lit Hollywood on fire.
I think, yeah, exactly.
He's one of the biggest arsonists of the 2020 so far.
He destroyed the room, and good on him. It was long over time, and I think as I can't remember what comedian it was, but he did a great tweet about it. He said you could even tell who the arseholes in the room are, because some of the Hollywood people were laughing at what he was saying, and the others were kind of outraged.
Oh, well,
Tom Hanks.
It's
like,
one of those things where they're sort of going,
yeah,
like they're like a lot of them are probably seething inside. It's sort of like the same. I remember at the Logies one year when they had Paul McCarthy, who's a David Koch impersonator.
Yeah.
And so he like gave a monologue, and they cut to Kochi, and like he's like all laughing at it. You're wondering, is Kochi just acting there, or is he privately just like seething and dying inside?
Well, one of the great jokes was the one about Epstein himself. Where he talks about what was the lead into that? You see, he talked about his own show Afterlife, which is about a guy who is going to kill himself. And then of course he led into the joke. It was like Epstein, he didn't kill himself. And then the guy who played Kylo Ren, I can't remember the actor's name. What's the name of the actor in the new Star Wars film? He kind of did this laugh. Now, he's never been implicated in any of that. Adam Driver, exactly. Adam Driver was, he laughed guiltily. I mean, guiltily in the sense that he knew everyone in the audience was guilty. Not that he was guilty, but he knew that there are a lot of people in the audience. And the other great thing is he linked into Ronan Farrow. I mean, he said, basically, Ronan Farrow's coming for you all. You know what I mean? He definitely linked into this idea that Hollywood people are all sexual degenerates. I mean, it was very kind of alt-right flavoured.
He talked about Leonardo DiCaprio's young girlfriends.
Yeah, aging, during the length of the new Tarantino film, which is approximately 3 hours long.
So
yeah.
What is he, a vampire or something?
Who?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Well, he's nearly 50.
Yeah, you wonder if, because he's been hanging out with Greta Thunberg.
Well, that's right. Let's call call Ronan Farrow to investigate. To the rescue.
Yeah.
So look, I thought it was a great dismantling, and I wore this T-shirt, which is made by a friend of mine, John King. He's in my what's it called, friend? If you join me on Facebook,
you shouldn't dox him live on the air.
No.
He might get 2 bullets in the back of the head.
No. He's selling them. So he wants to sell them. So he gave it to me. So he said wear it online, and then mention my name, and if people want them, they can order them off me. So go to my Facebook page, John King on my page. He makes these T-shirts, so they're good fun. They're good fun to wear to liberal parties and left-wing parties to annoy people.
Yes, because we still don't know. It's only now a meme at the moment. Epstein didn't kill himself, and I know that there's some people such as Nick Fuentes who don't like that it's been turned into a meme because it demeans what is probably one of the biggest scandals of the previous decade. This child sex trafficking blackmail intelligence operation, which...
Well, yeah, that's what it was. It was clearly a Mossad intelligence gathering operation. You know what I mean? This is how they blackmail our politicians.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Exactly. Ghislaine Maxwell?
Yeah, her father was Robert Maxwell, who was a British media mogul who had well-known Mossad connections, who also had a mysterious death, fell off his yacht in the Canary Islands. I think they called it was an accidental drowning or suicide, one of the two.
They've always got these yachts and these fucking planes. That's a very suspicious to begin with. And I mean, Ricky Gervais made the joke is you all had to come in your own plane tonight, didn't you? You couldn't come with Mr. Epstein.
And
so I think it's funny. I think it's witty, and it really brings the issue back. And I mean, I just think he dismantled them, right? And their whole point, how they always get up. I mean, even though they did get up, Kate Blanchett got up and gave a big talk about it.
Yeah, as far as I know, let me just double check because there's a list here of the celebrity donations here. I do not see Kate Blanchett's name here.
Oh well, she did a bit at the
Yeah,
Golden Globes apparently.
It was Jennifer Aniston, I think, who read out Russell Crowe's acceptance speech for played Roger Ailes, and he's also been on Twitter raging about the climate change link. Though no tweet from Russell Crowe saying he's going to donate a large sum of money.
Yeah, well, these globalist actors and stuff, they're big in talking at. Well, that was the whole point that Ricky Gervais was making, is that they got big mouths and they love to, they're not in a position to lecture anyone about anything. They're a bunch of morally bankrupt people working in an industry, for companies like Apple and Amazon that basically almost have Amazon.
Ugly.
Sorry. Apple does have kind of like sweatshops in China and stuff. So, these people are not in a position to lecture anyone. I think that was what was great about Ricky. And it was daring for him to do that, and whether he was kind of invited, that he was expected to do that, maybe Hollywood itself is looking for a corrective, not everybody in Hollywood is an evil bastard. There's got to be some semi-decent people, because you can see in the TV shows, like the House of Cards, it was like about the Clintons, whoever made that is clearly red-pilled, there are many people in Hollywood, and I know a few of them from working in the film industry. But there are some decent people in Hollywood, and they're sick of all this bullshit. Some of them are not publicly, they're not that open about their politics in public, the fact that they're right-wing, because they can't be. There are people like Clint Eastwood and John Voight and people like that who are openly right-wing, but there are many also that keep it, on the sly. Like, I think the guy who behind what's the name of that show, Family Guy or whatever, he's quite right wing apparently.
No, that's MacFarlane. He's a liberal, but
he's a bit red pill.
Family Guy. He's not politically correct. He hosted the Oscars one year, and he made he also made some politically incorrect Hollywood jokes
about Weinstein and that.
And
there is an actual fact about Seth MacFarlane. He was about to go on a flight. Was also on the same day as 9/11.
Yeah.
He actually missed his flight. Just before he could make it, because he had a massive hangover on that day.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was partying and all that. So that's the reason why Seth MacFarlane made 9/11 jokes, because the hangover kind of saved him from going on that plane.
Wow, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actual fact. Him and Mark Wahlberg on the same day, they were going to go on the plane and all that, but then there was a lot of switch of plans and all that, or some delays or whatever.
Well, maybe they got a phone call saying, "Don't get on that plane."
That's what you wonder. But they're the biggest name to die in the September 11 hijackings was Barbara Olson, who was the Solicitor General Ted Olson of the United States at the time. Was his wife, Barbara Olson. And so she was on the plane that went into the Pentagon. And she was a conservative commentator on CNN and Bill Maher's Politically Incorrect show, and they were sort of known as the conservative Republican power couple in Washington.
Interesting. There's so many weird things around September 11. That's an entirely different show. We can't go down that rabbit hole. But the day before September 11, the Pentagon announced that it had lost something like $2 or $3 trillion or something. And then the next day,
there were war games on the morning of September 11 as well, where they actually were simulating planes hitting tall buildings.
Yeah, well, there you go. So it's deeply suspicious what was going on that day, and we don't need to get into that. But it's amazing. Alex Jones. I've always been a bit of a fan, but sometimes when I've watched Alex Jones's videos, things like they're going to take their guns. You know what I mean? I always thought, well, this American Second Amendment, they're not really going to take Americans' guns. That was about 10 years ago. But now this month, I think they want to start. They're trying to round up people's guns. It's almost like. Pardon me, Reg?
Bugala means they just want to go to war with the government, because America is patriotic and they remain loyal to the Constitution. If you try to take guns,
it's terrible.
You're just going to go to war.
There's a really great show called Sons of Liberty, which is about the American Revolution, which, I think it's just made by the History Channel or something in America, and it's available on Blu-ray locally, just at JB Hi-Fi or whatever, but I highly recommend it to all patriots and nationalists out there, because it just shows how a small group of patriots can basically found a new country. You know what I mean? Basically it's a group of louts in a pub that starts the Boston Tea Party, and from the Boston Tea Party it gets bigger, and eventually George Washington comes into it, and they form an an army and stuff. But really, it's amazing. So I really highly recommend that. And I think we're on the brink right now of a potential second revolutionary war in America if they go ahead with if the globalists, and if you look at what the globalists are, they really, the British are the original globalists. You know what I mean? They were global in their influence, the British Empire, and they were taxing people too much, and they're acting too much like vampires, sucking up everybody's profits and overtaxing people, and just being too domineering and interfering with things they had no right to interfere with, and that's what started the American Revolution. And I think we stand at a very similar stage now historically with what's called the globalist elite. It operates out of New York and Washington and Wall Street and the deep state and all this kind of stuff. What do you think, Reg?
Well, simple. You try to take the guns, you're going to take away the freedom. But when the British told them to hand over the guns, you know what the other guys said? No way, get stuffed, bugger off. Exactly. America was founded on rights, liberty, and freedom.
Exactly.
That's what America is. After the British lost America, what did they do when the jails filled up? They send the convicts to Australia.
Exactly, that's where we come into it, mate. So it's connected to Australia as well. So it's history repeats itself, mate. So we're standing at a very interesting juncture in history.
We have got
If it wasn't with the Yanks, we wouldn't be here today. So, yeah.
God bless America.
We have got a question on entropy from Australian Protectionist Party. Celebrity donations, is it just for the publicity? Well, as I said with Kate Blanchett and Russell Crowe, talk is cheap, but putting your money where your mouth is. I do admire that. Let's name and praise some of the donors here. So James Packer in total, he's the Crown Casino operator, 5 million.
Good.
It was mainly Pink that got the donations started, if you get my pun.
Yes.
The singer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she pledged $500,000.
Good old Pink. I always liked her.
So did Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban. Kylie Minogue and her family, $500,000. Then Chris Hemsworth, he doubled it to 1 million.
He's a good bloke, Chris Hemsworth. I met him once.
Kylie...
The workaholic Elton John donated like $4 or $5 million.
Yeah, Elton John's here.
Elton John. Well, there you go.
I'm trying to see how much he's. 1 million he donated as well. And there's been a lot of talk about comedian Celeste Barber's fundraising appeal, which has raised 40 million. Though, in my opinion, she hasn't been it's great that she's raised that money, but she still hasn't been very sort of classy online. She's bagged ScoMo, and she also tried to, shame Gina Reinhardt into giving a donation. Well, Twiggy Forrest has given 70 million.
Yes,
Gina Reinhardt has responded saying she donates privately because she is a private person. She's just a businesswoman. She only participates in politics and the media because she has to. She absolutely hates it. She's a workaholic most of the time. But she over the years has done philanthropic work quietly, such as preventing sex trafficking in Southeast Asia.
Very good.
Yeah, I met Gina Reinhardt once about 5 years ago. It was an Institute of Public Affairs function, and she gave a brief presentation about what her values were. She was a big fan of Prime Minister Modi of India for getting the people out of poverty. So it's not right to shame or extort people for donations. That's not the spirit in which donations are supposed to be given, because the whole thing is voluntary. It's called a donation because it's voluntary. If it's forced, then it's a tax.
Yes, no, of course.
Yeah, and well, this is what we have. We have the Socialist Alternative Front, Uni Students for Climate Justice, tomorrow. They don't believe that we should be voluntarily donating out of the goodness of our hearts. They want the government to fund all the firefighting, and they also want to decarbonise the economy. And Victoria Police and the Victorian government, they've actually pleaded with the Marxists not to protest, because I
think this is terrible.
Emergency resources.
There's a protest on tomorrow, isn't there?
At the State Library of Victoria. And Reg, you said that the New South Wales Greens are involved in the Sydney one.
are working with Extinction Rebellion. They are not a talk about the environment at all. They are all about taking down capitalism. All right, Shoebridge is working with them the whole damn time. I mean, there's a lot of connections because he told pay his workers to do something good, like burning the Australian flag or something like that. The Greens just want to bring down capitalism here in New South Wales. All right, they just want New South Wales to go down the Victoria's path. So that's what all they want.
Well, I mean, I have a fairly diverse Facebook page with a lot of different people from a lot of different politics all over, and I'm a the writer John Birmingham, who wrote He Died with a Falafel in His Hand, he's on my Facebook page, and for the first time, he's very, very left wing, but for the first time he censored me. Like, I would make comments on his page, and he wrote this thing about, he believes all the fires are the cause of global warming, and he censored me, and so but the guy still hasn't deleted me off his Facebook page, so I got to give him some credit. Anyway, I tagged him and said, how can you justify a left wing protest? How can you support this? Because he's very much into fighting these fires, like most people. How can anyone on the left justify this protest? It's going to take resources away from actual, like police and from actual people fighting fires. Right, the fires are still going on, as far as I know.
Well, most people are safe, but the fires are still burning.
Yes.
So, and obviously
the police now have got to rush to Melbourne and, look after some ridiculous left-wing tantrum.
Screaming
brats.
Marxists.
Get out in this blast and that's it. I mean, seriously, build a wall in Melbourne, keep these bastards inside,
You've got it pretty bad there in Sydney as well. I mean, we don't have Marxist Greens like Shoebridge down here. I mean, we just have standard awful Greens. Oh, well, we do have Adam Bant, who has actually said that Scott Morrison should not visit Victoria. He should not be welcome here.
Oh,
Adam Bant attacked Jimmy Molan. He pissed on the Ashes and Anzacs and all that. I mean, Adam Bandit. I mean, he's such a buffhead. I mean,
yes.
If I ever did him, I'll confront him and blast him for attacking our troops and all, and especially Jim Molan. I met Jim Molan once. He's a good bloke, and he should be Defence Minister of Australia. He does a really good job with the Australian Defence Force, and I guarantee he's a really good man for the job.
Have you noticed the way media too is related? I mean, ScoMo has been visiting a few people, a few people who've been affected by the fires, and obviously there's going to be some Labor voters amongst there who are going to not like ScoMo.
And
it's very easy to pick one or two people who don't like ScoMo and to have them go piss off or whatever. Yeah. I mean, if there was a Labor Prime Minister, there'd be a couple of Liberal voters who'd be like, "Oh, where were you?" or whatever. I mean, it's very easy. It's all manipulated. What I want to say is, it's manipulated. It's fake news.
Yeah,
and it's coming from all major channels.
Yeah, and the mainstream media, they've been in a coordinated campaign to basically anything that ScoMo does wrong, because he has made some
mistakes.
Errors. They're amplifying it and making sure that they get the worst sound bites, like our Channel 7 broadcast that firefighter who says, "You from the media, tell the Prime Minister to get fucked." And you have journalists online such as Peter Van Onselen, who basically trying to shame Scott Morrison's every move. Though I know he hasn't been tweeting as much this week. Do you know what he's doing this week, Peter Van Onselen? Well, he's political editor for Network 10. He's filling Waleed Ali's shoes on the project.
Oh, dear.
Oh, bugger him. Isaiah Butterfield should replace Waleed Ali as the host. Just bugger off the other one as well.
Oh, my God.
Go back to her gorilla, my husband as well. I mean, I got the project. It's just worse as time. They're piggybacking on the Simpsons and all that.
Well, they also did that before Christmas, that edited section where they had that a volunteer. I'm not sure if she was a firefighter or emergency service responsive. She said, "Oh, he's not my prime minister." And then they cut it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
She said, "Oh, it's because I'm a British citizen." And then there's an exchange for a minute and says, "Oh, we should get Andrew G, who's a local member, to make you an Australian citizen so I can be your prime minister."
Exactly. That was another piece of folk news when that woman said that, and she also said she was a Boris Johnson voter, so she was a right winger. It was just more fake news and more manipulation. And the incredible thing is not only just the ABC. This is going out across Channel 10, Channel 9 even. You know, Channel 9 at least sometimes could be a bit right wing, but you know, it's incredible the concordance across what you would call mainstream media.
And then you have Piers Morgan from the UK. He's casting his media judgment from over in England.
What's he say?
Liberal backbencher Craig Kelly, he made an appearance on Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan and Laura Tobin, and he's had to apologise for calling her a ignorant pommy weather girl because she is actually a qualified meteorologist.
Meteorologist, yeah.
But even though a lot of weather girls these days are not meteorologists, well, you just call them bimbos, even qualified meteorologists who make the forecast still get them wrong.
Of course. And
if you can't predict the weather 2-3 days in advance, you're supposed to tell us that you know the weather, what it's going to be in 100 years. We're told that this is Bureau of Meteorology tells us that this is the hottest and driest year on record, though Bureau of Meteorology and the CSIRO, it's been exposed by Jennifer Mariosi, their temperature homogenization, where they think they can measure the temperature back in 1940 better than the people in 1940, and so that's what they call it, homogenizing, aka manipulating or distorting historical figures.
No, of course.
So that it makes it look like it's the hottest year on record.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of lying going on, and you know, I mean, not all of these years are the hottest year, and I mean, you know, and there are many. I mean, there was another interesting kind of graphic that was going on Facebook that showed that in Australia in the 1800s, there are a number of weeks and days where it was 50 all over Australia. You know, so I mean, you know, there have been hotter days than this, and they haven't all ended in catastrophic fires. So I think it's a combination of arson, hot weather, you know, and you know, ill intent, and also probably human stupidity that have you know come together as this perfect storm that we're seeing at the moment. But hopefully we're getting it under control, and it seems like we are a little. So let's keep our fingers crossed, patriots and nationalists, and that, you know.
Yeah.
While we're on Piers Morgan, he's also, because he does say things that are based, and
he's all right, Piers Morgan, sometimes.
But when he was host of Piers Morgan Tonight on CNN in America, I'm not sure if you remember this, Reg, but every show was just about how Americans were dumb and crazy about guns.
Yeah, well, Piers Morgan, you know, I mean, I'm glad Alex Jones stood up to him, because Piers Morgan knows nothing about the United States. He's totally brainwashed. I mean, when Piers Morgan went back to UK, I thought...
he took Alex Jones' advice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I support Alex Jones, and Piers Morgan, you know, I didn't like him at all by Piers Morgan, and back then I thought Alex Jones was damn, that's one crazy dude, you know, and when Piers Morgan was doing the election thing, I was like, oh, it's all right, but yeah, I'm a bit thing there, but Piers Morgan's just, not that type of bloke, you know.
Well, I mean, you know, he's
not my cup of tea, but Piers Morgan, you know, he's more based on all Carl Stefanovic and all, and just, I don't trust him or the other mainstream media. But Andrew Bolt, I do like him.
Well, he's on holidays. All the conservative commentators, Andrew Bolt, Rita Panahi.
Andrew Bolt is on holidays.
Rowan Dean is on holiday. Paul Murray is on holiday. So this is why the media is able to keep bashing ScoMo, because as they know on Sky After Dark people, I saw Rita Panahi's in Spain.
And who are the only people on deck still, you know, defending the right? Us here at the Uncockables and at the Unshackled.
Well, Chris Smith is holding up the Sky After Dark fort. And I noticed that Prue McSween, I'm not sure if you've, have you seen Prue McSween? She's the older sort of she's got a very high society accent. She's got crazy blonde hair. She's quite good.
Don't know her.
She's been busy tweeting
Away
as well.
Tweeting up a firestorm. Pardon the pun.
But the reason why I mentioned Piers Morgan, because he's been
he's
Meghan
okay sometimes
Markle's
on Brexit,
biggest critic. Well, since the royal wedding happened.
Should we talk about the scandal?
Yes, the news broke today. That,
we're going to talk royal stuff now, so we're getting onto the real news.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are breaking up with the royal family.
How does that work, Tim? And do you give a fuck, Reg?
I don't give a fuck about Prince Harry or Meghan.
Neither do I, to be perfectly honest with you, brother. I'm with you. But tell us what's been going on, Tim.
I'm Queen and the crown only. And yeah.
I'm
for the British Commonwealth a little.
Yeah, I'm a monarchist, definitely, but like I don't really care about. Obviously, when he married Meghan Markle, she was clearly one of these Hollywood liberal arseholes. So. Go ahead.
And history has repeated itself. The old expression, those who are ignorant or don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And Prince Harry obviously didn't follow his own family history when it would have been his great uncle. King Edward.
King Edward.
Yeah, married American socialite divorcee Wallis Simpson, and it nearly brought down the monarchy, caused a constitutional crisis. Prince Harry marries a American divorcee socialite, and it's caused a rift in the royal family. There's reports from a royal source that Prince Charles is incandescent with rage.
Yes. Well, I think. I think it's a definite insult that they've done this to the Queen and obviously Prince Charles and, the succession. But obviously he was not next in line for the throne or anything. And I mean, one of the funniest memes I've seen on Facebook is Meghan Markle sitting with the Queen and asking the Queen, do you have any advice for living a long life? And the Queen responds, wear your seatbelt and don't piss me off.
Yeah, well,
obviously in relation to Princess Di. I think it's time for Prince Philip to call in his friends in MI6 and organise a fast car in Paris for Meghan, possibly.
Yeah, get James Bond to that.
Yeah, get Bond on the case. There's a new Bond coming up. Exactly.
Well, they were also big on the climate crusade. They were only going to have two. Well, they're planning to only have 2 children for the cause of the planet, and even though they've been on private jets. And also they spent, I think it was $1 million of British taxpayer dollars renovating one of the UK homes. They've been living in Canada, I think, for the past 6 weeks, and are going to mainly be in North America, split their time up. And it was well noted that in the Queen's Christmas message, there was no Prince Andrew or Prince Harry photos.
Yes, well, Prince Andrew's already got his marching orders due to the association with Epstein, who killed Epstein is the great question of the evening from my t-shirt.
And where's Ghislaine Maxwell?
And where is Ghislaine Maxwell?
Well, most people... no, I shouldn't say that, but there's been a lot of news reports that say she's in hiding in Israel.
Oh, Israel. That's a surprise.
The Sun newspaper in the UK, which is a Murdoch-owned tabloid, that's been breaking most of these stories.
Yes.
And going back to because Robert Maxwell in the 80s, he owned the Daily Mirror, and he was in rivalry with Rupert Murdoch's The Sun at that time.
Yes.
So you wonder whether this is Rupert Murdoch's red top British tabloid taking revenge on their former nemesis.
Possibly. And look, I guess since we mentioned Israel, we may as well mention the Iran war. What's going on there at the moment? Like, Trump is obviously been very close to Israel. Whether that's a kind of, well, I call it the Hyman Roth deal, whether that's a kind of keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer kind of thing, or whether it's, he really is legitimately trying to be the friend of Israel for various political reasons. Obviously, in the sense it's probably helpful to him to have at least half the Jewish community on his side, at least the right-wing Jewish community, the nationalist Jewish community. So I don't know. What do you think? This attack where they took out this, what was the name of the guy they killed? I can't remember his fucking name.
Yeah, it was General Qassem Suleimani.
Well, I'm sure the planet doesn't miss this prick, but is this really the right thing to be doing? Where does the new right and alt-right community, where do they stand on all this?
Well, when he was killed in a drone strike at the Baghdad International Airport in Iraq, everyone was on the internet saying it's going to be World War III. And
Yes.
they've been saying this with about Trump's foreign relations for the whole time of his presidency.
Yeah.
I mean, in April 2017, they were the first serious strikes. We thought that, well, this was the end of his non-intervention policy and the betrayal of his base. Then there was that was the end of that. There was more serious strikes in April 2018, and remember the Kim Jong-un
Of course.
back and forth where Trump said online that my button is bigger and more powerful than yours, and said that North Korea will be met with fire and fury, the like the world has never seen. And then 6 months later, they're having a summit in Singapore, and so you sort of suspected that even though everyone was thinking that this was going to be that the world was on the brink and Trump had finally started a war, Iran responded with 15 missiles fired into Iraq. Only 11 of them landed. No one was killed or harmed.
Oh,
You're all right, Rag?
Are you there, Reg?
Sorry, guys.
Some technical difficulties?
Oh, no, it's just the old man just came in.
What do you think? What do you think of the whole Iran situation? What's your comment there, sir?
Well, I'll say about the Iran thing's just, they attacked the embassy and all that. They probably got the reserve, the generals, the guy who led the attack can rot in hell and all, but it's not going to be a World War III, seriously.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Trump is
Trump
I think
looked at the sources and all that, and at the end, Iran's just going to be completely smashed by the USA. They're just going to surrender quickly, and that's about it.
I think that would be the case, obviously, if there was a war, but it would be a big conflict. But I don't think either side wants this conflict, and that even though there's been some what you call skirmishes, I think neither side wants to have a full-on, all-out conflict. And that I think, one of the things that's very interesting about Trump is that he definitely has been a man of peace to a certain extent, because this is not the kind of behaviour that Bush one or two, that even Clinton won, and Obama.
He hasn't started any new wars,
No,
but
not
there's
yet.
more troops in the Middle East than US troops, I should say, in the Middle East than under Obama, and he's ramped up the military budget.
Yeah, he has. Yes.
And so the military-industrial complex is getting its
Getting his gravy.
yeah, its paychecks.
Getting its cream.
But yes,
corn.
because Iran's response was so limp-wristed, most people interpreted it as that's just Iran trying to save face with a sort of, you'd call it a virtue strike.
Virtue signaling strike.
Iran now basically has a censored internet like China now, and they told their people that 80 Americans were killed in the airstrikes.
Fair enough.
And so basically fed their people fake news. And Trump said that this is the end of the operation. Now, the reason why it got to this stage is because Iranian-backed Hezbollah militias had been carrying out attacks in Iraq, because Hezbollah has grown. It used to be just in Lebanon, but now it's expanded throughout the Middle East. And the reason why Iran is doing this is because, well, they're angry about Trump tearing up the Iran nuclear deal in 2018 and restoring sanctions, which has crippled their economy and currency. And so it's a game of basically guerrilla trade and sanction war.
Yes. What does Nick Fuentes think of all this? He's very dubious in relation, because obviously a lot of people say this is an Israeli war, and that why is America once again fighting an Israeli war?
Well, Israel said that they weren't going to participate in this conflict. That's what Netanyahu said earlier on. But it was interesting that then when Iran said, we're going to attack Israel next and Dubai, if there's any further provocation, I noticed that Ben Shapiro said after the airstrikes in Iraq, Ben Shapiro said, okay, let's stop now.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, isn't it? So, look, it's interesting state of affairs, but obviously I do believe believe it's not a full-on Iran war. Obviously, I don't think Trump wants that going into the 2020 polls because he did make a pledge not to start any more of these wars. So I do think that he is pulling back from all that. If there is going to be a war, it will happen in Trump turn 2, I believe.
And there is also during when just before these. I'm not sure. I think it might have been during these airstrikes. There was a Ukrainian Airlines flight that crashed in Tehran, killing 176 people. There were 63 Canadians on board, and Justin Trudeau.
Only 63 Canadians. Yeah, well, that's no big loss.
He's trying to get the black box from Iran, which they won't give. I'm sure Justin Trudeau, he's going to be determined to get that black box, but there's speculation that one of the missiles accidentally hit that plane.
That sounds right.
As far as I know, I don't recall on the top of my head whether any Americans were killed on board. There were some Germans, Afghans, Swedes.
No, I wouldn't like to be flying out of Iran on a Ukrainian airline. I mean, I think that's like a call for suicide right there. That's a terrible situation.
Reminds me of that British Airways flight that landed in Kuwait just when the Gulf War started, and the passengers there, they were kept hostage for about 3 months.
Indeed. So what else? Anything else we've got to cover? There's one other issue in relation to those guys who, what's the name of that guy? The Covington boys versus CNN.
You remember the Covington kids? It was this time last year. They were attending the March for Life, and they were being racially abused by the Black Hebrew Israelites, who,
That's right.
well, at the end of the year, 2 of their members committed a terror attack on a kosher deli in Jersey City, and there's been a spate of anti-Semitic attacks by people of African-American appearances, including a machete attack at a rabbi's house in New York.
Yes.
And I noticed that ABC News, they did a special report on it. They said a man went in with a machete, didn't say a black man, but they showed his photo, and where you could see he was clearly black.
So the Covington boys got a settlement of what, $275 million?
Yeah, it's undisclosed. It's reported between
approximately
250 million and 275 million from CNN, because basically the whole of the online sphere was saying we want to destroy these boys' lives. We want to dox. Oh, that's what Kathy Griffin said. I want them doxed. I think she's being sued as well, and so is Elizabeth Warren. But there was one CNN.
Do you know this story, Rich? Do you know this story?
Who said about Nick Sand?
Kathy Griffin's got what she deserved because Karma's a bit of a bitch to for holding up a Trump head and all that. So yeah.
Exactly. Do you know these boys? The guys with the guy who just stood there and just...
Yeah, Nick Sandman in front of that Native American Nathan Phillips who was drumming in his face.
And he didn't do anything.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. I recognize the kid. So,
he got paid about $250,000.
The Indian and all that. And
now I'd just like to make a call here to CNN. If CNN would like to do that to Tim or myself or yourself, Reg, and pay us $250,000.
Well, I'm not a 16-year-old kid. But
No,
it's interesting there. The mainstream media had no problem with.
If I actually tried to like do something like I'm not doing anything wrong, and the media attacks me for it, they're just going to attack me big time. I mean, if I actually throw Together Green and all that because it's down for my country, I'll be put in jail and all that, and then the media will just attack me big time.
That's true.
Are you there?
That's true, but if you've done nothing like this young kid has done, and you ended up getting a payday of $250,000, that wouldn't be $250,000, $250 million. That wouldn't be too bad. So anyway, obviously it worked out all right for the Covington boys in the end, don't you think, Tim?
Well, given that I think they're the trauma, because they're just 16-year-olds. The point I was getting at, that remember how you're not allowed to attack Greta Thunberg because she's a 16-year-old child, even though she chose to be a public figure, but a 16-year-old Catholic high school boy who didn't choose to be on the world stage is now suddenly subject to all these death threats and abuse. That would be horrific.
Yes, no, I understand that, and they've got their payday, so there we are. So does that wrap up The Uncockables, episode 42, my good man.
Yeah, it's just going to be a short show tonight. I'll put the entropy link in again just in case anyone else wants to send us a question or super chat. I know there's been a lot of problems with entropy tonight. Peter V has sent through a $3 super chat. Whether Peter Gray started the fire in Elwood or not, but he wasn't much of a comedian either, and has put through a YouTube link, which I'll put in the description. This YouTube link.
Okie doke.
I'll click on it, see where it brings us to.
Where does that go?
It's an unlisted TikTok video that Peter V made.
Very good.
About Peter Grace's comedy career.
All right.
So part 2 of your report is going to be out hopefully soon, in the next few days.
Which obviously speculates on possible causes of this fire, and obviously I guess it might delve into the realm of conspiracy theory, but always a conspiracy theory is speculation. You are guessing. Just in case there is something nefarious going on, we need to investigate these things. So there you go.
Wilm's Front will be on tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Melbourne time on Tim Wilm's YouTube channel. We hope to bring you live coverage of the Melbourne Socialist Alternative Uni Students for Climate Justice protest.
Tomorrow.
Just see how they're going to screech for attention. Lucas Rosa is one of our writers for The Unshackled. He's been documenting who the people behind this group, Uni Students for Climate Justice.
Yes.
We might name and shame the main organizer here. This what's the girl's name? Where is she? I need to find her name. Neke Damayule, and
She sounds Australian, doesn't she?
she is Australian.
Technically.
She has been. There is a video that I dug up because her face looked familiar. I should put her face up here as well. This is Anika there, and this is her being interviewed by 7 News. She made
never date her with
so there's an old
I think you're pretty safe, Rich.
Video where the Young Conservative and Debbie Robinson went to Melbourne University to ask people what they thought on the latest leadership bill, and the Young Conservative was wearing a "It's Okay to Be White" shirt, and obviously it triggered the Marxists there.
Ooh, I bet.
Aneka was one of them there.
One of the ones being triggered.
Started yelling at him, and then at the end they chanted, "No Nazis, never again."
Well, all these. I find left wingers. More amusing than anything else. Particularly the climate alarmist ones. They do come across as a kind of cult. They're in some kind of doomsday cult. If you think about what climate change represents, particularly the more hysterical narrative that's being produced by some aspects of the left, it's like they're in some kind of cult. And I think that's possibly why they're dangerous. Because as we all know, people in cults can be friggin' dangerous. And they're the kind of people who almost create the doomsday situation that they're longing for. So I think that's the problem there. Tim, it's been great talking today.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we've got to promote?
Keep following The Unshackled's coverage of, or not just the Australian bushfires, but all the other geopolitical and, well, it seems at the moment, celebrity news. You hope that with celebrities, actually donating their money now rather than just engaging in cheap talk, that maybe they're learning something in 2020.
Yes, indeed. And Reg, it's great talking to you. Great talking to a patriot up in New South Wales, and I hope to meet you one day, mate. You seem like a top bloke.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Yeah, I like to wish everyone to stay safe from the bushfires and all that, and thank you for inviting me on the show and all that, Tim. So,
yeah, thanks for coming on, Rag. And everyone should go and everyone should go and visit your Telegram channel and New South Wales Patriots against the extreme left.
And I'd like to echo what Reg just said about stay safe during in this bushfire season. I think all of us here at the Uncockables North End Chakra would say, take care and fight these fires if you can help, and
donate as well.
And also donate.
My recommendation would donate directly to the firefighters, because they're the ones who were putting their lives in danger, and even when they're evacuating people, and so are the Australian Defence Force.
Yes.
When people are safe, then that's the most stressful part of the ordeal over them. But the firefighters, they are experiencing it every day. So I'd suggest directly donating to local.
Get up there and support the
fighting service. We'll be back next week, Thursday, 9 p.m. Melbourne time, on the Unshackled YouTube channel and D Live. And please visit theuncockables.com to find the podcast links and also the archive of episodes. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Guys, goodbye.
No, wait. I got to play the outro.